Okay, welcome to lesson 4. In this lesson, we're going to be solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So, you should remember this one from grade 10. So this is a review from grade 10. Here is the quadratic formula, and it is an important formula for those of you continuing in mathematics after high school. You got to know this one really well. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So what are the a, b, and c? Well, there's the a, there's the b, and there's the c in a quadratic equation. All right, so there's two ways we can solve these. We can solve them by factoring, but today most of these aren't going to be very easy to factor, and even if they are, I want you to solve all of them with the quadratic formula to show me that you know how to use the quadratic formula. Okay? Now, when we do this, we can get a few different scenarios. We can get two possible answers out, two roots, one answer, one root, or no answers, no roots. Not all quadratic equations can be solved by factoring, which is why we like to use the quadratic formula a lot, and you need to show me that you know how to use it. So we're just going to do 3 quick examples here. All right, so here's our first 2 examples. First, let's identify A, B, and C. A is 3, B is -5, C is 2. And we're going to sub those in the formula. So make sure you write the formula down in your homework. Make sure that you know it properly and you write it neatly. Again, this homework is going to be dependent on you showing some steps, doing a little more than you might normally do. Show me clear, precise steps. Show me everything because you got lots of time to do it, lots of time to check your answers over. So if you want to get a good grade, I want to see some half-decent work in there. All right, let's substitute everything we know in. Well, we know b is -5. So we have -5 plus or minus the square root of b, which is -5 squared, minus 4 times a times c. All right, all divided by 2 times a. All right, so let's simplify this. -5 is 5. -5 squared is 25. 4 times 3 times 2. We got -24. And all divided by 6. And we end up with x is equal to 5 plus or minus 25 minus 4 is 1. Square root of, well, I'll show every step here. Be careful. All right, so we got 5 plus or minus the square root of 1, which is 1. All right, so now we have 2 possible scenarios here, right? 5 plus 1 or 5 minus 1. So we could have x is 5 plus 1 divided by 6, which means x is equal to 6 divided by 6, which is 1. So there's one of our possible answers. Or x could equal 5 minus 1 divided by 6. So in this case, we're going to get 4 over 6, which means it could be a fraction. X could be equal to 2 over 3. All right, so there's our 2 possible solutions. We ended up with 2 in this case. Tomorrow's lesson will deal with more talking about when we get no solutions or one solution. Hopefully most of today's ones you get 2 solutions for. All right, now this next one here. Problem with this is it's not in ax squared plus bx plus c form. We need to get all the terms on one side. So let's subtract 6z and add 7 to the other side. We're going to end up with z squared minus 6z plus 7 equals 0. All right, so a is an invisible 1 out front, b is -6, c is 7. And let's just substitute into our formula again. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. All right, let's sub everything in and see what we get. So -6 plus or minus the square root of -6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 7, all divided by 2 times 1. All right, and let's simplify this one. So I'm going to get -6, which is 6, plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 times 1 times 7. So that's going to give us 28, all divided by 2. All right, 6 plus or minus 36 minus 28 gives us the square root of 8. Now, we're not actually done here. We can clean this up more, okay? So obviously, square root of 8 is not a perfect square, but remember, let's go over the side here and look at a little side work. 8 can be broken down into 2 times 4, and 4 can be broken down to 2 times 2. We can prime factorize it. We have a pair of 2's, so we can pull out a 2 and rewrite this as 2 root 2. So now I have x equals 6 plus or minus 2 root 2 divided by 2. Now both of the terms on top are divisible by 2, so I'm just going to scoot over here to write my final answer. X equals 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 2 root 2 divided by 2 is root 2. So that would be my final answer after dividing both the terms on top by 2. 6 is the first term, and 2 root 2 is the second term. All right, so we have two possible answers again, 3 plus root 2 or 3 minus root 2. Now that's the simplest way we can write this answer. We don't want to write a decimal. I want you to come up with a simplified radical and as simple as you can get it. All right, we're going to look at one final example. Okay, this one's similar to the last one. It just needs to be rearranged. Sometimes you got to simplify them a little bit. This one, let's just get everything to one side. So 5x squared plus 2x minus 4 equals 0. A is 5, B is 2, C is negative 4, and away we go with our formula, right? X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. All right, so negative B, that's going to be negative 2 plus or minus the square root of B squared, 2 squared minus 4 times 5 times negative 4. All divided by 2 times 5. All right, so let's simplify this as far as we can get. Negative 2 plus or minus. On the bottom, there's going to be a 10. All right, the top, 2 times 2 is 4. And we got 4 times 5 times 4. So that's going to give us 80. All right, so plus 80. I'm just going to bring this up here because I don't have a lot of room. All right, so I got negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 84. Now again, that's not a perfect square, but what we want to do is prime factorize it and see what we can come up with. So I'm just going to go over to the side here and take 84 and divide it by prime numbers. And I'm going to start with the easiest one, which is 2. 84 divided by 2 is 42. I can divide that by 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. And 21 you can divide by 3, which leaves you with 7. So that means the square root of 84 could be rewritten as 2 times 2 times 3 times 7. Now we got a pair of 2's. So we can pull out the 2 and we're left with 3 times 7 and underneath the square root. So that's 21. All right, so I can rewrite this as negative 2 plus or minus 2 root 21 divided by 10. Now once again, look at both of these terms on top can be divided by 2 and the 10 can be divided by 2. So what I'm going to do is divide them all by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So our simplest answer is going to be negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 21 divided by 5. And there's two possible answers. Negative 1 plus the square root of 21 divided by 5 and negative 1 minus the square root of 21 divided by 5. Okay, so this lesson is putting together something you learned in grade 10. And the only new thing maybe for some of you is at the end, just simplifying your answers. So look at that radical like we just talked about, the square root of 84. And break that down, right, into its prime factors and see what you can factor out to simplify it. All right, thank you, and try the homework. And again, when you do the homework for this, make sure you show all your steps. Don't skip steps. And basically, you're going to be awarded marks for doing a neat, nice job because you got lots of time to check your answers. I want to see if you can come up with clear, complete solutions, okay?